In today's show, Regina reveals how to make simple meals that look and taste like you spent all day preparing them. Cream of broccoli soup and a fresh pasta top off the menu. Regina explains the benefits of buying herbs and spices in bulk. And David Berkeley makes his wine selection of the week.
Today's show is dedicated to dining on the fly because you never know when something's going to pop up, like those pesky dinner guests you forgot you invited over for dinner. Yes,
yeah,
literally. No, literally.
Like
I'm
when
not
I
joking.
showed up last week?
Well, okay, you're
pesky dinner guest. Okay, go ahead.
No, I've done that before, and if I'm in a hurry but I don't want to go, the cold cereal route for dinner, the bachelorette's dinner, then I'll put together a quick soup, which is what we're going to be doing today. And the nice thing is it's a completely fresh, simple, good-tasting meal. Good. I mean, just by itself, if you want a fresh soup. And then we're going to be doing what I call a salad omelet. Salad omelet.
I'm going to have to see this.
Yeah, that's the one I said you might not find particularly appealing, but it is.
Oh, it'll be wonderful.
It tastes fabulous, and I'll tell you why when we get to that, but basically it utilizes leftover salad. Now, how many of you just toss your salad out? You put the dressing on? We all do, down the garbage disposal or in the trash. Well, you don't have to do that because it makes a really yummy omelet or frittata or scramble the next day.
I'll wait.
Okay, well, and then we'll get to the rest of it a little later on, but let's start out with the fresh cream of broccoli soup. And the only time it takes to make this soup is the time it takes, basically, to boil the broccoli. And we'll let that go for about 5 minutes to 7 minutes. You do not want to overdo the broccoli. This is just one
al dente.
half. You're going to be processing it in here, so you want it to be soft enough to process in here, but you still want all the nutritive value, and you want that nice fresh green color. You don't want the pea color that you get from overcooking broccoli. So it'll take us about 5 minutes, and we can chat about the weather. We can come back in just a couple minutes.
Watch the pot boil.
Okay. Well, we're only about 5 minutes into this recipe, and you'll see it takes about 1 minute to finish this soup up.
Nice and bright green still.
It is. It's still green, and I like to use a vegetable broth, and you can use pre-made or one that you have prepared yourself, and you want just enough broth in there. I hope you can see this. Just enough broth in here to cover the vegetables. There you go. Sometimes I put a little spoon of olive oil in it just for a little extra richness, but we are putting something else rich in there. No, I'm going to put a little bit freshly ground pepper. With broccoli, I like to put just a touch of nutmeg in sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Sounds interesting.
You don't have to do that, but I like to do it. And then this is bland, so you need to put enough salt in there, and then we'll taste our way through to the end of it. And then a little bit of seasoning salt, just to get an infusion of some additional flavors in there. And then finally, let's go ahead and blend that and put it on I think we already have it low on the coarse blend.
And since this is hot, you don't want to go too fast too soon.
We start slowly because we've all been burned by that one before. And we're adding a little bit, in this case, of half and half. You can add, I like half and half now and then. You can add non-fat condensed milk or any kind of milk you wish. Just enough to start getting a nice creamy color and flavor to it. And basically, the soup is done. That took, what, 6 minutes, something like that? Now let's taste it and make sure our seasonings are right. Just want to pour a little bit in the bowl. I'll give you a spoon, and I've got a spoon. Bueno. Now that's a nice cream of broccoli soup. Very respectable. What you can do is take a little bit of Reggiano Parmigiana and make sure, what you do after this is you put it back on the burner and reheat it, and then you can put just a little sprinkle of either like a sharp cheddar cheese or a little Reggiano on top to give it a twist, and then a little sprig of parsley, and it looks like you spent all day in the kitchen.
Good for a quick meal for yourself or for a guest.
Yeah, it really is. It's wonderful. Okay, next we're going to go to our salad omelet.
I'm waiting for this one.
And now we're ready for our salad omelet, and it's going to be utilizing some leftover salad, as I mentioned just a little bit ago. Chris, you want to bring the...
Is it the spinach?
No. I can see why you could confuse it. That's for the next recipe.
There isn't anything over.
That baggie there?
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
I was going to throw that away.
No. Okay, could you go ahead and do some eggs up for us, my dear? Why don't we do about 5 eggs? Okay. This will serve a few people. Well, it looks like the salad here is composed. Yeah, I can see the little pieces. We have some cabbage, we have some lettuce, And we have shredded and sliced carrots here, and we also have a little bit of cucumber, and this one has a balsamic vinaigrette dressing.
It's got a dressing in there too?
It's got a dressing. That's how come it looks like this. If we hadn't put the dressing on in
It'd be
advance,
fresher,
it
yeah,
would be a
but
little fresher
still.
looking. No, now think about it for just a moment.
I will.
Okay, when you saute spinach, for example, like we have back there, what do? You wilt it. And you're
Okay.
probably going to put in a little bit of olive oil and oftentimes a little
Okay.
bit of balsamic in there. And after about 1 minute, you get something very similar to this.
Yeah, but it's
except
spinach, not...
lettuce works just the same as spinach. So basically what I was starting to say is you have a little bit of olive oil or a little bit of balsamic in there. You have all the ingredients you would be adding later, except they've been marinating overnight. So this is a marinated vegetable omelet.
I'm going to wait till the end. I'll taste it. I'll taste it.
There we go. And I'd say this amount would make a portion for 2 really hungry people. Or so you cook this up very quickly. Again, the vegetables have softened because they've been sitting overnight in the liquid, so they're already softened up a bit. So you'll take about 2 or 3 minutes to go ahead and soften the vegetables up a little bit more. You don't need to add any extra anything to it. All the flavors are included. There's a little salt and pepper in here. I might add a little more pepper.
Is there a dressing you wouldn't want to use this
Oh yes,
with?
very good question. I wouldn't go with the cream-based dressings.
Some
I would
oil-based.
stay with the oil-based, just a simple vinaigrette type dressings. And we're going to wait just a minute for this to soften up a bit, and then we're going to actually make a frittata out of this today. You can do a quick scramble if you like. It only takes a minute. Or you can take a little extra time and for about 5 minutes put it in a hot oven and get that nice smooth surface rather than the scramble, and put a little tiny bit of Parmigiano Reggiano on top.
I should turn on the oven. How do you know when it's done?
I know that was a snotty little comment, but I'm going to let it pass and tell you that as long as the carrots aren't overly crisp, you're okay. Now, because this already has a little olive oil in it from the dressing, we don't need to put anything else in this pan. Why don't you gently pour the eggs
You're not going to make a frittata out of it?
Yeah, we'll make a frittata. Let's just pour the eggs in over it, and I'll kind of stir it from here. And we're doing that way. We make it a more or less a one-dish meal. And then we'll go ahead and we've already put all the spices in it. Okay. Spread this around smoothly. Make sure the vegetables are evenly distributed. Okay. And it shouldn't stick. I have a non-stick skillet, and again, a little olive oil that was in the dressing in here. Just let the bottom and the edges set up a bit. And we're going to, you don't have to put it in the oven. You can avoid that step if you like by just turning this into a quick scramble. It tastes wonderful. But we'll go ahead and take the extra step of putting a little bit of a really nice Parmesan on top. And it doesn't need it. It already has a lot of flavor. I just like a little tang from the Parmesan. The oven's at about 400. We'll put it in the oven for about, maybe 5 minutes. Just enough to make sure the top is cooked all the way through and get a little bit of bubbliness on that cheese. Make sure you have a handle. This one has a removable plastic exterior, but make sure you do not have a handle that will be damaged. And we're ready for our frittata. And tell me this isn't smelling like the real deal.
It's looking and smelling like it.
There you go. And if you want to make it look even more lovely, put a simple little garnish of red bell pepper, and no one will know what you've been up to.
It looks good. Do I get to taste it later?
Yeah, just let it cool off a little bit. And you can be honest in your reaction.
I will. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Meanwhile, if you're going to put something together quickly, it's really nice to have a few staples on hand, and most of which you know about. But I think probably the most critical, if you want to have some dishes that at least have a little interest and flavor, you should have a reasonable variety of basic herbs and spices. So we went on a little tour at the co-op to the bulk herb and spice section, and I definitely suggest you buy buying in bulk. Much cheaper, much fresher. Patrons of the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op feel truly blessed, and it's partially because of this, the bulk herb and spice section, which is really one of the finest in the country. We're going to give you a little bit of a tour of some of the really essential ingredients you need to set up your kitchen, whether it's for ethnic or classic American cuisine, and we're going to start really basic here, okay? First of all, if you go into the grocery store, into the aisles that have all the little seasoning packets, at the base of almost all those mixes are both garlic and onion powders and a little bit of seasoning salt. We're starting here with all of the spices that have to do with ethnic cuisines. Here we have chili powder. Now this is going to be at the base of most of your, say, Mexican and some of your South American types of cuisines. Then we move on to cayenne powder, which is used really around the world now. There's something really interesting you should note if you're buying cayenne in the bulk spice section, and that is there are two different kinds of cayenne here. Actually, there are more than two, but you have to look out for the heat factor. They call them BTUs, right? Well, in this case, it's HU. This particular cayenne powder here is only a third as hot as this cayenne powder here, which you put one grain on your tongue and it'll burn you for the rest of the afternoon. In a recipe for Indian cuisine, if it says a half a teaspoon of cayenne powder, it does not mean this 90,000 HU stuff here. Just a little note. And then coriander and cumin seed. These are used both in Mexican cooking, for example, and certainly a lot in Middle Eastern cooking and Indian cooking in particular. And then we come into the curry powders. You can get, if it says just curry powder on it, that means usually it's a blend of curry powders, where, for example, here you have one specific seed that's used in this particular curry powder, which is absolutely outstanding. This is a really wonderful curry. Now, garam masala, you've heard me speak of this many times. This is a combination of 5 or 6 different spices that are both sweet and savory spices. And then one more, which you really need to have around for, again, for Asian, Southeast Asian, is ginger root. Ginger is at the base of a lot of recipes, excellent for digestion as well as a flavor. Now we're going to go into the basic herbs that you would find in most European cuisines. They're often used in other cuisines around the world as well, but primarily found in European and American cuisine. And a lot of this you're very familiar with, but again, to have a good basic stock of herbs on hand, this is probably where you'd want to begin. And we'll start down here with basil, which is used in a lot of recipes. Say if a recipe calls for basil. You want to use fresh chopped herbs. You would use 1 tablespoon of chopped fresh basil to 1 teaspoon of dried basil. So that's kind of a general rule of thumb for most of the herbs. So, next one we're going to look at is Italian seasoning, which is a blend of a lot of these herbs down here, and it just makes it easy on you. If you want to get lazy, just go ahead and get a seasoning blend. You can use Italian seasons here, or you can use what's called fine herb, which is very similar. It has a lot of the same seasonings of Italian seasoning, but it also has chives in it. And then, if you want to go a little bit more toward the south of France, and in my shows you've heard me talk about herbe de Provence an awful lot. I love that combination. You can take a basic Italian seasoning, or fine herb, add a little bit of lavender to it, and it gives it that southern French twist. And then tarragon, this is another very common herb to Italian and Greek cuisines and a lot of European cuisines. Thyme leaf, and then parsley. Again, it's the same ratio, a 3-to-1 ratio. Makes for a nice little decoration on the side of a plate when you finish a dish. And then after parsley, we have oregano here. Oregano and marjoram are much stronger herbs. This is really versatile. A good thing to have oregano and marjoram around. And finally, rosemary, which has definitely a Southern European flair to it. So I highly recommend, if you have an opportunity to buy your herbs in bulk, it makes it not only fresh, but affordable, so you can really afford to stock up. Now I'm getting ready to dazzle you with my culinary skills.
Well, it's got to be good because we got mushrooms. What you going to do with them?
Put salt in them and cook them.
What else?
That's it. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm not joking. And I told you this is a quick and easy show, but please don't disregard simple. This is one of the most richly saturated mushroom flavors on the planet. So I'm quite serious about this, and if you build it up, create a good story around it, okay? Create a good story around it, because
Let's say it's Russian.
It's a Russian delicacy, and if you have a really nice bottle of champagne, for example, and I've had this with champagne and it's marvelous, you just take a little bit of coarse kosher salt and put a little bit in each cap.
Most people don't have that? Regular salt's okay?
Yeah, regular salt's okay.
Is this just flavoring it? It's not doing anything?
This is not doing anything to it, although what will happen as you cover this, we're going to put a little tiny bit of butter in the bottom of a non-stick skillet just to make sure that it doesn't stick. And then on the very bottom of the cap, you'll get a little bit of extra flavor. And you want to place the mushrooms in, putting a little bit more. Some of these are rather large caps.
Cap down?
No, cap up. That's what happens. And what's going to occur is as these mushrooms sweat in the heat, you want to cover it, they're going to create these delicious golden mushroom tears. Okay, we'll let this cook down for just about, 5 5 to 10 minutes. You'll know as soon as you take the lid off, you'll see that they'll be weeping, and the little cap will be full of this golden liquid, and they're absolutely yummy. In fact, let's see if we can wrestle up a little champagne just for kicks.
Oh, good.
Okay? I think that way. Okay. Can't spill these. They had to be very delicately placed in here because if you upset them, they lose all their golden tears.
And that came out of the pan just like that, full of that juice.
If you can get a close-up here. In fact, I'll remove this. You'll see the whole cap is full of this beautiful amber-colored liquid. So they've cooled off enough, otherwise you can't eat them right out of the skillet because they will scald your mouth. So why don't you go ahead and have one. They have a little salt in them, and then wash it down with a little sip of champagne, and tell me if that's not especially if you build the story around it, a respectable little hors d'oeuvre. Is that an intensely mushroomy flavor or what? Isn't that wonderful? And if you love mushrooms, you can't get any more mushroom than this dish. And while Chris is sipping on his champagne and enjoying himself here, we're going to go to our healthful libation spot today, which focuses on leftover fruits.
Hope it's better than the salad.
Oh, come on, you haven't even tasted it yet.
I'll give it a
joking.
try.
Okay. No, this is a smoothie made with leftover fruits. You don't have to throw the fruits away because once you put them in a blender, it's all the same anyway, right?
I'll check the refrigerator.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to make our healthful libation with leftover fruits, and Chris will be finding them in the refrigerator. Thank you.
Ugh.
Someone took a bite out of this morning, probably Jeannie.
It's been around for a couple of days. How's that?
Perfect. This was from another show we did. We decided to hang on to it so that we could show you that these things could be used again. And we have mostly pineapple, a little bit of kiwi, which will be fine. In fact, we're using a pineapple and orange base.
Pineapple, strawberry, orange.
Pineapple, strawberry, orange. You've got it. So anyway, you want to go ahead and measure out about, for one, we'll make it for two. You use about 2/3 of a cup of fluid if you're making it for 2 people. And here we'll put in, you can use maybe 2/3 of a cup.
Get some of those plums down there too. They're on the bottom.
Okay. So we'll put most of a banana in here since there are 2 of us. And then I, as you know, like to put maple syrup.
It's kind of like the balsamic of smoothie.
Yes, it is. And then we're going to put some yogurt in to give it
plain or vanilla?
This is plain yogurt.
Okay. Protein
and then
powder?
finally a little bit of protein powder. And you'll see that you would never guess that we were dealing with leftovers here. And then a little bit of ice because we don't have any frozen fruit in here. Is our blender ready to go?
All ready.
Okay. On low.
It is now.
And you can always add a little more sweetener if it's not just right for you. Some people like it more astringent. In fact, I know kids that like yogurt and fruit. They don't want any sweetener in there at all. They want a real astringent, a little bit of tart taste to it.
Starting low.
You can rev her up. Bueno, really good pineapple flavor, and you're not getting a whole lot of tartness from the yogurt because we smoothed it out with the banana and the maple syrup. And we'll have this as our little midday snack, and when we come back, we're going to make a wonderful pasta dish for you. Very quick, all the ingredients are fresh, and you can put it together for those unexpected guests when they show up at your doorstep. Isn't that yummy?
Very good.
Our next quick and easy dish has its roots in southern Italy, and this particular one is based on a Puttanesca sauce. So this dish relies on a lot of classic ingredients. We have some black olives, some capers, and we have tomatoes, a little bit of Reggiano, though you can use a Grana Padano, an Asiago, any kind of a good, sharp Italian white cheese, hard cheese, and of course, again, lots and lots of garlic and some olive oil. And in keeping true to the nature of the show, we are relying upon one leftover ingredient.
I find the cold leftover pasta in the refrigerator. How do you keep the pasta from congealing?
You want to make sure that when you're cooking it, you put plenty of olive oil. I have, this is already heated up, and we're going to put in, you just watch this as you go, but we'll say about 1/3 of a cup of broth. This dish relies very heavily upon garlic.
Garlic's good for what ails you.
Garlic's good for just about everything, and we have, 3 or 4 cloves right here. Next goes the tomatoes, and here we have a couple varieties. Heirloom tomatoes, nice vine-ripened tomatoes. Then we want these to do, maybe a 2-minute saute. You don't want to have the tomatoes cooked all the way down. This is a very fresh-tasting sauce. So we'll just let these go for a couple of minutes. Now let's put a nice little punch in here with capers. Capers add a lot of flavor for a tiny little ingredient. Okay, and the olives. We're going to put in the fresh spinach. And you can see this has only taken a few minutes up to this point. And you barely need to wilt this. And as Chris is stirring that around, I'm going to put a little salt and pepper in. Team effort going here.
Oh, it's already going. It's about half done already.
And then at the very end, we're going to be adding the olive oil. So you get that true classic flavor and texture to it.
Boy, that was fast.
Isn't that fast? It's pretty too. If you don't overcook the greens, you keep those beautiful bright colors going. There we go, and that was 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil, which is not a lot for the entire dish.
Oh, that is pretty.
Isn't that pretty? And to finish it up, we'll toss the pasta in, just however much you'd like to go with these other ingredients, and toss it around for a minute or so to heat the noodles back up again. And as you can see, they're very fresh.
If your
They're not
noodles
sticking
happen to be
together at all.
warm already, you could do it in your final bowl.
Exactly. But usually they're not if they're
Yeah,
leftovers.
that's true.
There we go.
There we go.
And put it into a lovely pasta bowl. Top it with a little bit of fresh Parmesan cheese, whatever style of Italian cheese you like. And as we finish the pasta off, we're going to go to David Berkeley. We're going to do something a little different today and have David explain to us the proper methods for preserving wine, because you know how it is.
Yeah, especially if you're a single person or something like that, or you do
Or
1.5 bottles or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, 1.5, or you're just having one glass at dinner time with your sweetie pie.
I need to know this.
Yeah, I need to know it too. So he'll tell us what we can do to properly store wine so it'll stay good for up to a few days at least.
Regina, quick and easy for your wine beverage this evening may simply be finishing the bottle of wine you had last night. Now, how you do that? Well, there are a couple of ways. One is, for some wines, preserving it for another night or two simply requires a cork and a refrigerator. Put it in there, it'll be fine. But for that, you need youthful wines, wines like young Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blanc, or even certain light reds like Beaujolais or Pinot Noir. But for other wines, there are a couple systems that the home consumer can use. One of them is a valve cork, and they advocate that you use this vacuum pump. Take the air out. Supposedly it removes most of the oxygen as well, so you don't oxidize the wine. Another system is a wine preserver, which I like the most, I think. It is actually an inert gas, a can of inert gas, and you spray it into the bottle. Now, because the gases are inert, they are not going to interact with the wine. Because the gases are also heavier than oxygen, they will displace it, thereby preserving it for some time. For champagne, nothing beats these beautiful stoppers. They preserve the CO2, which also protects the wine and retains the CO2 for the effervescence.
Alrighty, now comes the moment of truth.
This
Although
is
I have to say, it has been out a little while, Chris. You sprinkle a little salt or anything on it?
Not yet. I'd like to try it first, and then if it needs it, we can do it here.
You have plenty of greens in there, and your carrots, and all your vegetables.
Well, it's good. It's different, but it is good. I'll give it to you.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you're going to have just the classic spinach omelet, for example, it has more flavor than that.
It's got,
it has
yeah,
more flavor
and
than
a little
most
crunch,
omelets.
too.
Yeah, a little crunch.
Very good.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being gracious. Until next time, asante.
To find out more about Regina's Vegetarian Table, visit our PBS website at pbs.org.